What's up, guys? I am Constant, and today we are going to be talking about the top performing DPS specs in Castle Nathria and Mythic Plus. If you enjoy this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and check me out on Twitch. We are almost a week into the first major content of Shadowlands, and there have been quite a few surprises in regard to DPS, so let's get into it. Alright, so this is data that's been compiled from the first few days of Castle Nathria, compared with the initial DPS tier lists and rankings from Icy Veins that was released December 8th, which was the first day of Castle Nathria. I think it's important to remember here that tier lists and rankings are usually rough estimates on how things will go, or even how things should go, but they're almost never entirely accurate. My favorite spec here is definitely Survival Hunter. I raid alongside a Survival Hunter, and the data from our raids is very consistent with the data here. Survival was completely written off going into Season 1 of Shadowlands. It came in dead last in pretty much every single ranking, and that was not only for raid, that was also for Mythic Plus. But they've proven to be one of the best specs for raiding, and they are beyond viable in Mythic Plus. Now, there are some changes for Havoc, Assassination, DPS Warriors in general, Destruction Warlocks, and some pending nerfs for Unholy DK coming the next few days, and that will result in some slight changes to DPS overall, but it's not really going to throw things off too much. Unholy is looking phenomenal ahead of this Mastery nerf, but it's kind of difficult to tell how hard that's going to hit them. Dreadblade is a significant Mastery. It increases their shadow damage done and their minion damage done, but at the same time, Unholy DKs have been parsing almost 10% higher than all other DPS specs until you get into about the mid-90th percentile. So, in my opinion, I don't really see this knocking Unholy off the top of the meters. I just think that it's going to bring them down to earth a little bit. I think that the best DKs are still going to be secure at the number one spot. Marks and Survival Hunters, Balance and Feral Druids, they're looking consistently strong, and unfortunately for Warriors, they are still pretty far behind in PvE content. These numbers are based on the logs from the first week of normal and heroic Castle Nathria, with a little wiggle room put in order to accommodate the buffs that will be applied to a few classes on the 15th. Castle Nathria has definitely received some nerfs, but it's still proving to be solid content. The raid feels amazing so far. It's really fun. A lot of the mechanics are really interesting. It doesn't just feel like a reskin of an old raid, which I think everyone is really happy about. Things will undoubtedly change over the next few weeks as more gear-dependent specializations creep into the 210s and 220s. It's possible that that's going to happen while I'm making this video, to be completely honest. I know there's a hunter in Complexity Limit who is very close to 210. And this is going to change things for the specs that are really gear-dependent. So as we have people who are nearing 210 and getting into the 220s, I would definitely expect to see that impact a few things overall on DPS moving forward. These are the most popular specs in the top 100 keys right now. You have Marksmanship Hunters, Fire Mages, Subtlety Rogues, Outlaw Rogues, and Balanced Druids. Frost Mages, Windwalker Monks, they're not far behind Balanced Druid, and there are also a few Unholy DKs, Arcane Mages, and Shadow Priests as well. Now, this is based more on an MDI scale rather than the average person pushing keys. But I do think that it's worth noting what kind of groups the best players in the world are currently using to push keys in the first week of Mythic Plus and Shadowlands. So this is the general idea of where every spec lands right now on a tier list for Mythic Plus. But I feel like I need to clarify a few things, so this tier list is going to be a little bit different. Alright. So S tier and A tier specs are the preferred specs. Warlocks, Arms Warriors, BM Hunters, they are technically less viable. But they can still be used to push keys. Tier lists don't account for skill, and right now, somewhere in the world, there is a really good Arms Warrior who's out DPSing a Balanced Druid. The problem with tier lists and rankings is that every single player is different. I've played with people who led the DPS meters by a massive margin on specs that were deemed worthless, and I've seen top tier specs stand in every imaginable AoE and pull lower DPS than the tank. These things happen. You have to remember that tier lists are broad. I know that this game is full of toxic, elitist players who only want to bring the most competitive, top-tier specs on keys. But I think the next tier list is going to be much more helpful for anyone who's not planning on pushing to the top 100 leaderboard of Raider.io this season. We all hear people complaining about the elitism of key groups. It's going to happen no matter what. But the thing that's the most frustrating for me in this, I play a healer, all right? So I see people who play some spec that, doesn't really make the cut as far as the meta goes. They complain about never getting a group. The second they make a group, they only bring the top tier specs. They are declining every single person that is not on the S tier. Stop that. I'm telling you right now, if you find good players to play with, just good players, you can stop worrying about having the perfect meta comp. And if you're nice in the process, you can probably stop worrying about having to pug. That's the thing that's so wonderful about this game. You can interact with other people, and if you're really kind, you will interact with those people more in the future if you so choose. Do not feel like you can only invite people that are S tier or even A tier. I get it. Right now, it's not feeling great to play a Warlock and have interest in keys, but at the same time, there are Affliction Warlocks in the top 100 on Raider.io. This isn't because they've magically found a way to bypass mechanic. No, it's because they're good at their spec. And if you are really good at your spec, it doesn't matter what the tier list is. It's worth remembering that that is the most important component for building a solid key group. Player skill is going to rank higher than where your spec is on a DPS tier list every single time outside of those people who are pushing to be the top key runners in the world. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe and check me out on Twitch. As always, thanks for watching.
Lovely lady that's next to me that I know you absolutely love because you love abominations is also really helpful.
Oh my god. Why is it wearing a pirate hat?
Because you can give them hats.
That's honestly amazing.
I just don't understand it.
Give them little accessories. She also has a bird on her shoulder.
Be right back, switching Covenants and Necrolord for the A-bomb with the hat. Sure.
Senior, I'm going to take away... Oh wait, no, I'm actually not, because you didn't do a shout out, so I'm not reading that.
Here, check this out.
If you do a shout out, I'm probably still
She
not reading.
does like a 10% health heal with a 2% per second heal over time. So it's really helpful for just like world content.
Yeah, but then you have to look at this thing all the time. That is horrifying.
Well, I played Undead.